Hi, my name is Garrett Christopher, and this is my YouTube channel, Garrett's Movie Take. So right now it's December. I cannot believe it. We're like 12 days away from Christmas. Isn't there a song about that? In any case, please visit my other two channels, Garrett's Sports Take and Garrett's Take. The Sports Take, I talk about sports, mostly football. I am going to give a Lakers kind of like, it's like a third of the way through the season. And I had said 25 games in, let's see what this team is doing, what's happening at that point. I predicted them to be about 500 at that time, and they were. But they're 15 and 13 now, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And Garrett's Take, I just took a trip to Arizona. And so I did a few little snippets. They're really small little takes, but from different areas in mostly Sedona and Prescott areas. So some really cool scenery. I didn't have anything really to say except to gripe about the drivers in Arizona. Sorry. But yeah, check that out for the scenery. Let's see. Weekly podcast available on Soundcloud and Spotify. I am currently reading my latest audiobook and latest novel, The Takeover Part 1 of Sci-Fi Series, and today I had a lot of fun with it. I actually had one of the characters, I'll do that sometimes, I'll have a character from the book. Since I do all the voices, I did the voice of Mr. Ben Mitchell, who is a younger gentleman from California. So I kind of talk like this a little bit, in Cowabunga do, you know, that kind of a thing. And so yeah, I had him kind of heading the podcast up, but right now presenting the audiobook bit by bit, and right now we're at section 5, almost an hour through. I think it's 4.5 hours long is the audiobook. So please check that out. Now get the audiobook, of course, as a whole through iTunes, or your Audible account. But yeah, check out my podcast, and definitely this one. I think you'll have a good time. Hopefully, laugh. I laughed. So truthfully, if you don't laugh, I'm not really concerned about it because I laughed. It made me laugh, so I'm good with that. What else we got? Oh, self-published author. Please visit GarrettChristopher.com to find out more about me if you want. And yeah, I've got 5 books now. And just so you know, I got, let's see, denied again by a literary agent who, again, doesn't want to kind of represent me with literary companies. And so I don't know. If you know anyone, please, I'm a good writer. Get my name out there, would you? No one will pick me up. Imagine that. Okay. So we're talking Christmas movies. I haven't seen any new movies yet. I can't wait till Spider-Man comes out next week. I can't wait to see that one. And if you've listened to my other podcast recently, I want to go to this theater in Oceanside, a Regal theater. The sound was just incredible. And I want to see Spider-Man there. No Way Home. Let's see what else going on. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm going to do a quick tribute today to a gentleman who actually was very instrumental in Home Alone, one of my favorite movies, not just Christmas, movies of all time. But first, let's talk about Jim Carrey and Ron Howard to a degree. First of all, Jim Carrey played the part in this adaptation of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I had to look at the title because I've only seen it like a million times. And by the way, I did see the cartoon version that came out about 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 years ago. I'm not sure how long. And that was cute. It was cute. But the work that Jim Carrey did and Ron Howard kind of behind the scenes there, and the casting was just incredible. And Jim just, yeah, such a really, really good job. Such a talented guy. And I guess that the pain he endured day after day, having that makeup put on for this was really, really bad. And you would think, you hear stories all the time about these actors who have to go through the medical transformations and they just hate it. And it's just hell for hours and hours on end. You would think it'd make it more easy on them, but I guess it can't. Take Jim Carrey to look like this or that was quite work. So for that alone, you know, I give this guy an A+ for enduring that makeup, you know, day after day after day after day. But just the job he did as the Grinch was just so Jim Carrey-ish, and yet just perfect. You know, so good. And all the other actors in there. Molly Shannon's in there from Saturday Night Live fame, and some other people too. Ron Howard's brother, can't think of his name. He's in a lot of stuff that Ron does. You know, Ron Howard, I don't like everything he does. And of course, my first introduction to Ron Howard was, well, I would say Happy Days first. That wasn't the first thing he was in, but I probably saw Happy Days before I saw any episodes of Andy Griffith, the Andy Griffith Show. I'm dating myself. If you are 35 and below, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But Google it, Happy Days, which was a very, very popular sitcom and very iconic, truthfully, in the 70s and early 80s. And by the way, you know, my name, Garrett Christopher. Well, Christopher's not my real last name. My real last name is, let me just say this. It was a name synonymous with Happy Days. We'll just say it. We'll just put it like that. And but that name didn't quite flow as a writer, right? And of course, I was called that every day growing up. You know, hey Richie, you know, and this kind of thing, and haha, funny. But that was my first introduction to Ron Howard. But again, Andy Griffith, I love that show as well. It's just It's excellent, and he was in that show, and I think that was his first introduction into acting, I believe. And of course, his daughter. I don't know a lot about Ron. I won't talk a lot about him, but great guy, and just yeah, decorated as a director for sure. And has done some really really cool things. I'm not crazy about everything he's done, but definitely steps outside the box, not afraid to take some chances, which is really cool. And he did How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So good job, Ron, and really great job, Jim Carrey. If you haven't seen it before, please watch it. If you don't know who Jim Carrey is, I got introduced to Jim Carrey in the Fox television comedy show. I think it was a half-hour show at the time, in Living Color, which again was really, man, just you've had a few different comedies that kind of push the envelope. In that particular show, for a lot of reasons, to get that show on television, first of all, it was the right time because Fox was willing to take some chances, and they still take chances. And it was so creative, and the comedians that were on there, just man, just so not only creative but original, right? Very original. You couldn't cuss on the show because it was, in my case, Channel 11. At the time it was KTTV, Fox Television. But yeah, and yet definitely rank, right, to a degree, which again, Fox is okay with that and still is. And yeah, but so creative, not using cuss words and yet getting the comedy out there and getting very, very lewd and hilarious comedy out there. If you haven't seen any episodes of In Living Color, check that out too. Try and get some of the earlier episodes, the earlier seasons as it went on. It got a little, the writing wasn't as good. But the first few seasons of that show were just hilarious, really, really hilarious. In any case, that's when I first saw Jim Carrey, and I think the world as a whole saw Jim Carrey. But by this time, he was well established, of course, because we had a couple of movies there that he was in. Right, we know about Ace Ventura, right, and then I think The Mask came before that too. So by this point, it's like, this is the guy we have to have. I'm sure Ron was like, this is the one. We're going to make this around and really kind of sculpt it around Jim Carrey. That's what happened. Okay, so if you haven't seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas, this adaptation, please do and enjoy it. Very, very funny. And it's a family film. You can watch it with the kids. No problem there. Okay, let's talk about Home Alone. And more specifically, I'm sure you've seen it. And if you haven't, you have to watch Home Alone. Get the family together and watch it. It is a great family film. It is funny. It is entertaining. It's just a great film. It's something you want to sit down and have your snacks and stuff with you, and put on the big screen there in your living room, what have you, and enjoy the film. I'm sure you've seen it. Everyone's seen it. But if you have not, you've got to watch it. I believe I was reading up on a little bit of John Hughes' kind of discography and all that. I believe that Home Alone might be the biggest selling comedy of all time. It was for that particular year when it came out, and if I read correctly, I think it still is the biggest comedy of all time. Macaulay Culkin, that was my first introduction to him, and so many iconic scenes with him, and of course you've got Joe Pesci in there, and yeah, some really cool scenes in there too. I want to talk about the movie. Just know that these two movies, especially Home Alone, are iconic. And if you haven't seen them, you have to watch it. So please do yourself a favor. But I do want to talk about John Hughes. Now, I've seen his name, and usually with John Candy films. Now, John Candy is in this movie as well. But, John Hughes, like Uncle Buck, which I've talked about on this show before, a great movie. And I just did a little study up on John Hughes. He passed away, by the way. He's been gone about 13 years now. And this guy did a lot, and his kind of avenue into directing and all that kind of thing is pretty cool. I guess that at the time that he was, I can't say he was discovered. It looks to me like he pretty much forged his way into what was going on. He was, I guess, a copywriter at one point and was visiting the offices where National Lampoon, which was a magazine, it probably best from National Lampoon's Vacation, but there was a magazine, maybe it still is, I don't know, but that's how I knew about National Lampoon. Again, like Mad Magazine, very rank and push the envelope. Well, I guess that he was a really, really good joke teller. He wrote jokes for like Rodney Dangerfield at one point, and from what I've read here, he was so quick at writing and turning things over that he actually got in with National Lampoons as far as writing for them and that kind of a thing. And that's how this thing started out. And he wrote a script which became National Lampoon's Vacation. And that's how he was kind of introduced as far as the writing, or introduced himself to the world as far as the writing and all that. And there we have it. You know, it struck me a little funny that he would write jokes for, say, Rodney Dangerfield, who was definitely cutting edge and kind of dirty. And then also National Lampoons, very much so cutting edge and very kind of crass and all that. And yet the movies that I envision and think of when I think of John Hughes are more wholesome movies. Home Alone, very wholesome, family friendly. Uncle Buck, same thing. A couple of cuss words here and there, but for the most part, you can get the kids together and watch Uncle Buck, no problem. And then I didn't know that he was involved in the Vacations and Christmas Vacation and all that. I probably just don't watch the, the credits enough. Let me read through some of the movies that he has been a part of. Let's see here if I can get to my page. That's great. Okay. I didn't know that some of these were a part of his deal. Let's see here. So we know about all the vacations. So pretty much all the vacations. Vacation, European Vacation, Christmas Vacation, Mr. Mom. Michael Keaton. I love that movie. Weird Science, which is a really cool film. The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink. And then he went on to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I guess was his first kind of dive into getting away from, because he was kind of being typecast as a writer for so what they called it? It was like the Teen Club or something like that. I forget, because you had the Rat Pack or the Teen Pack. You had the Rat Pack back in the day, which was like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis and all this kind of thing, right? Then you had Molly Ringwald and all these people that came along. I can't think of all the names right now, but great young actors that came together, and they were the ones who were in like Weird Science and the Breakfast Club and all that kind of a thing. But he felt he was being typecast in that particular genre, so he wanted to step out. And Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin was his first kind of, I guess, a step into that kind of more adult comedy, which someone asked me when they're talking about Christmas. That's another Christmas film, by the way. Asked me if, is that one of my favorites? It's not, actually. I enjoy it, and there's some really cool scenes in it. Definitely he definitely put a stamp on his films, between the score and the way things kind of came through, and just the common decency of friendship and humanity was kind of like his, for me, was his shtick. And yet that wasn't his first kind of uprising. Yeah, it wasn't it at all. It was how he brought these kind of like what teens go through, and how can I put it? Puberty, I guess. How that kind of rears its head. Is that the way to put it? How it kind of, I was going to say pops up. That's not the way to put it either, but how it kind of appears. Okay, we'll do it that way. Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, I always knew him as this nice, wholesome, person. And I don't know where I was going with that. I totally got thrown off. But anyway, okay, let's go on here. Pretty in Pink. I named that one already. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And then we had the Uncle Buck. He did Dennis the Menace also. The Beethoven, I guess under a different name. He was part of the Beethovens. And then the Home Alones, of course. 1, 2, and 3. So John Hughes, really cool guy. Another person who unfortunately went way too soon. And some would say also that when John Candy passed away, almost a decade or so before him, that was a big loss for him. They did a lot of projects together, and another really cool guy. So anyway, so this particular channel is about Christmas movies. Please check out Home Alone and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and also Mr. John Hughes. Brother, we miss you as well. And I want to thank you for the movies you kind of put together. And I didn't know the list was that long. Incredible list. And Ron, good job to you too. All right. Hey, thanks for checking in. Please visit GaretChristopher.com and find out all that I have going on, and my other YouTube channels. Okay. Have a great day. And let's see, I'll probably check in one more time before Christmas. And maybe I'll be able to talk about Spider-Man. I'm going to try and sneak in. The first weekend when a new movie like that opens up, it's always a little crazy and trying to get the best seat. I don't want to get stuck in the front of the theater or somewhere in the back. I want to be where I want to be. So I'll try and check it out and do a little review on that one before. No spoilers. I never do any spoilers, but a little review on that one beforehand. But yeah, so we'll see. So I'll say Merry Christmas next time around. All right. Hey, take care. Have a great day. What's your name? GoPro. Stop recording. GoPro. Stop recording.